yet so powerful that it reshaped global economics, politics, and sovereignty forever. And once you see how it happened, you'll never look at money the same way again. Section 1, setting the stage. When money was still real for most of human history, money had a simple rule. You couldn't create it unless you had something real to back it. Gold, silver, land, labor, production. Empires rose and fell, currencies came and went, but money itself had limits. If rulers spent too much, they ran out. If they debased their coins, people noticed immediately. Inflation was visible, consequences were fast. Power was constrained by reality. But as economies grew more complex in the 17th and 18th centuries, governments faced a problem. Wars were getting more expensive. Infrastructure required long-term funding. Taxation alone wasn't enough. That's when a new partnership emerged between states and private banks. Banks didn't just store money anymore. They began creating it, not openly, not dramatically, but quietly through lending. Paper notes replaced metal coins. Claims replaced substance. Promises replaced limits. Money was no longer value. It was a claim on future value. Most people didn't resist because daily life felt the same. But power had already begun to shift. Section 2, the origins, when money became debt. The real transformation began when governments stopped issuing money directly and started borrowing it instead. This sounds technical, but it changed everything. Instead of a government creating currency and spending it into the economy, it now issued bonds borrowed from banks promised future repayment, with interest money entered circulation already owed. Debt became the source of money itself. This system matured with the creation of central banks, institutions designed to manage currency, credit, and crises. On paper, they were neutral. After World War II, the world needed stability. Currencies had collapsed, trade had broken down, trust was gone. So global leaders met in 1944 at Bretton Woods to design a new monetary order. The result looked reassuring. Currencies tied to the US dollar, the dollar tied to gold, international institutions to manage balance and lending. But beneath the surface, something critical had changed. Money was now managed globally, not locally, not democratically. The IMF and World Bank emerged as lenders of last resort. Their loans came with conditions. Conditions reshaped national economies. Debt became international. Policy became financial. Sovereignty became conditional. Still, there was one remaining restraint on power: gold. As long as currencies could be redeemed for something real, money creation had limits. That restraint would not last. Section 4, the breaking point. 1971, and the final rewrite in August 1971. The United States made a decision that changed the world forever. President Richard Nixon ended the dollar's convertibility into gold. Officially, it was temporary. In reality, it was permanent. From that moment on, money was no longer backed by anything tangible. Currencies floated freely, central banks were unconstrained. Debt expansion became limitless. This was the final rewrite. Money was no longer a claim on gold. It was a claim on nothing, but enforced by law, taxes, and trust. And with that change, power shifted dramatically. Who benefited? Those who could create money first, those closest to credit, those controlling interest rates, those holding assets instead of wages who lost. Savers, wage earners, fixed-income households. Nations without reserve currencies, inflation became policy. Debt became permanent. Asset prices replaced productivity as the engine of wealth, and the public barely noticed. Section 5, the fallout. How power consolidated silently once money could be created without limit. The system began to favor one group consistently, those closest to money creation. Banks could borrow cheaply and lend profitably. Governments could run endless deficits. Corporations could finance growth with debt. Asset owners watched prices rise. Meanwhile, wages lagged, purchasing power declined, savings eroded, inequality widened. Every crisis reinforced the shift. In 1987, in 2000, in 2008, in 2020, each time markets faltered, central banks intervened. They cut rates, they printed money, they bought assets, they stabilized prices. But they didn't stabilize society. They stabilized the system that benefits from asset inflation and debt expansion. Power flowed upward, not through conspiracy, but through structure. Section 6. Failed fixes. Why nothing ever reverses after each crisis. Reform is promised. Tighter regulation. Fiscal discipline. Responsible monetary policy. But the fixes never last. Why? Because reversing the rewrite would mean allowing deflation, letting asset prices fall, forcing debt write-offs, shrinking balance sheets, removing central bank dominance. The system cannot survive that. So instead, it doubles down. More liquidity, more intervention, more control. Each fix preserves the rewrite and deepens it. Section 7. Modern parallels. The pattern is clear. Look at the world today. Global debt exceeds $315 trillion. Central banks own massive portions of government debt. Interest rates dictate political decisions. Markets move on policy hints. Not fundamentals. Wealth inequality rivals the pre-Great Depression era. Currencies continue to lose value. Assets continue to inflate. Debt continues to grow. Different countries, different systems, same outcome. Because the rewrite wasn't national, it was global. Why? 3 takeaways. 1. Money was quietly transformed from a public tool into a managed system of control. The rewrite shifted power from production to credit. 2. The shift didn't require conspiracy-only structure. Incentives did the work automatically. 3. Every crisis strengthens the rewritten system. Emergency measures become permanent architecture. Final warning: a world where money is endlessly rewritten to preserve power is a world moving toward a breaking point. Not because people wake up, but because systems built on infinite expansion always meet finite reality. When that moment comes, the question won't be what failed. It will be who controls what comes next. Call to action. If you want to understand how money shapes power and how quietly it was rewritten, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the rewrite didn't stop. It's still happening.